Right. We are at 9:30, so I think we should begin. Could I welcome everyone to the IAWAI board in February. It's quite a big day for us today. We will be, from a board perspective, completing the transfer process for the creation of the new board entity, so very significant in that respect. That decision then has to go to the two councils for sign-off, which will happen in mid-March, I believe. We are also signing off the draft water services strategy for consultation with the public. This will be the first water services strategy in New Zealand for new entities, so that's quite significant. And we've also got a number of other significant reports on today's agenda, both in public and in public excluded. Health and safety is going to be coming up later on the agenda. I think that's a really important topic. We need to be on that from day one when we go live. It's a key responsibility for us as board members, but also in public excluded, looking at a joint digital platform with Taronga and Western Bay Plenty, which is quite significant nationally. Now, I'm going to ask in a moment Tim to open this morning's proceedings. But thereafter, we're going to invite Dr. Chris Hickey and Sean Bishop, who have a proposal for a different approach to the Southern Wastewater Treatment Plant, which we'll look forward to hearing from them on. Then we will get on the agenda proper, if that makes sense too. So over to Tim. Thank you.
Tēnā tātou nei mai whakatau mai, tēnei hui o IAWAI. Ki me tūtai ki tātou i nana renga mea katoa, rire hau, pai marire. Ki me kia kui nā waihona I te poa, te kui Māori, te whare kāhui aiki. Ki te me I ngā mate o te motu, haere ki te poa. Ki te me kia te whānau pani Areka Hopkins, he kaitiaki o te awa Waikato, he kaitiaki o te roto o Waikare. Ke te tangihana Areka ki te marae Mauria, ki te tā o te awa Waikato, Apopo, ke te haere Areka, ki te Urupā, kei runga o te puke o Waikare. Te rangatira Areka, haere ki te po. Ki te timata o tēnei hui, he karakia tātou, mā te atu tātou katoa. He honore he korori ki te atua, he mangaronga ki te whenua, whakaropai ki ngā tangata katoa. Ki tia te ora, ki tia te wairua, whānau, haramai te toki, haumi e hui e tāhei. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I just acknowledged one of our kaitiaki, one of our long-standing kaitiaki, Areka Hopkins, who passed away this week. Areka was quite instrumental in influencing and upgrading a number of wastewater and water assets along the Waikato River. He played a key role in terms of upgrading the Te Kauwhata wastewater plant so that the wastewater would improve when it gets discharged into Lake Waikare. And I just wanted to raise it just to give our board, remind our board that we're here for everyone. We're here for the wider community. Thanks.
That's great. Very timely as well. Thank you. So just moving on to a little bit of agenda before the public forum. There are no apologies today, so all three board members are here and we are fully for it. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Confirm no declarations of interest. Are the board members comfortable that the draft minutes are a fair record of our last meeting, or do you have any corrections you wish to make?
On me, move that.
Yeah. Okay, we sign that off. So I'd now like to invite Chris and Sean to present on the Southern Wastewater Treatment Plant. Over to you. And you know the rules, Chris. It's 10 minutes. If you don't use the full allotted time, we will have some time for questions. So over to you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for inviting us back. For those that don't know me, Chris Hickey, I've worked with NIWA for a long time, working on water quality guidelines, development, risk assessment, environmental areas. Unfortunately today, Sean is unable to join us because he's now got a prior commitment. So I will bear in the brunt of today's presentation. It's only 5 slides. If we can put it up fully, thanks Natasha. But so what we're going to speak to you today on is the Southern Wastewater Treatment Plant and the work we've been doing with an alternative site. And we think that offers some good benefits compared to the current site. So next slide, please, Natasha. Oh, that's the one. So my first slide is just to point out some resilience and consequences issues related to this current Range Road site. Okay, so the aerial photograph on the right, it shows the southern links in the light colour, and the dark yellow is the site you own. I'm pointing out the sheer numbers of houses dwellings that are in the vicinity of that site in the downstream area. The Waikato River is in the upper right and does the right angle bend at that point. And the Nukuhol stream runs down to the Waikato River in that area. So just to touch base with a few of these resilience and potentially environmental consequence areas, in the groundwater area, this site's not suitable for any disposal to groundwater. It has a high groundwater level. It's just not suitable. All these downstream users, a lot of them use drinking water takes and things like that. And the groundwater is very high oxygen and no iron and things at the moment. Okay, so if you have any incidents at this site, irreversible harm in the groundwater. Okay, surface water, Nukuhol stream offers very low dilution, which I've mentioned before in the presentation, and is high ecological values. And so for routine operations, it's not a very useful pathway. Very large cultural concerns associated with the Nukuhol Pa, and then major receiving water downstream. If you have a major incident, the discharge is upstream, with no buffers between the drinking water intakes, and creates major concerns for health in that area. There's also the housing proximity in this area. So in terms of extreme event management, we know you can manage a plant, design a plant for a certain return period, but the environmental consequence, if you have an event like we've just had in Oklahoma down there, it's hard to imagine how the site would work. Okay, so what we're suggesting is it should be proactive in terms of site selection rather than reactive, which is what we see for lots of these environmental things at the moment. And it's a director's responsibility, hence we're here today. Okay, moving on to what we're going to show you. Next slide, please, Natasha. It'll come. Right. So we're going to talk about Site X here. The location is, you can see the airport runway there. It's positioned adjacent to State Highway 3 and very much adjacent to the new Southern Links proposal route there. It was assessed in part as Site 3 in previous of your reports, but the major thing that was against it was that it didn't have sufficient area. So the Site 3 areas are shown in yellow here, and the additional areas that we've been working with the landowner to make available are those in the red. So there's an additional 13 hectares of area there that's contiguous with the site, gives a total of 27 hectares available. Now, the surrounding environment in this area is predominantly, industrial, and there's no reverse sensitivity areas in this area, and there's very much, access issues from no problems from State Highway 3, strategically aligned with the planning for the Southern Links, and it has an overall planning alignment with, this whole industrial envelope in this area. Okay, so that's the basis of the site. Next one, please, Natasha, which should still have the same photograph to talk through. I'm just going to run through a few of the advantages here in terms of why you should choose the site. Very much has a lower ecological and consenting risk than the Range Road site. Very much reduced environmental sensitivity. It offers the potential for land-based disposal pathway, which isn't present at the other site. So this site has about 20 metres of highly porous sand, under there. It's adjacent to where they've got a big sand mining operation. It's very much a low sensitivity environment for potential land discharges. And very much materially reduced cultural impact. There's no nukuhau downstream of this, and as best we know, there's no cultural, major cultural issues with this area. There's minimal residential interface, and we understand that transit have purchased lots of those properties and they're going to go and things like that. And very much a low acquisition risk from your point of view, and offers simpler access requirements for this. This site also, we think, offers greater long-term scalability to support your future network growth. All right, so especially in this land-based disposal aspect as well. Next slide, please, Tata. I'm trying not to talk too fast, but it's my last slide. You've got the hard copy anyway to go back through it. What we're requesting then is that you adopt, in principle, this Site X as a leading option for the Southern Wastewater Treatment Plant. We'd like to ask that you commission a targeted like-for-like comparative assessment using the existing multi-criteria framework. That's for year-round discharge feasibility, cultural impact and alignment. And we very much like to remind you, we have not been able to get the cultural impact assessment, which was 50% of the scoring that sent it past the nukuhau before. We haven't been able to see that, whether it's available now. Undertaking an ecological baseline confirmation, and we think it scores well for this. Integration with the Southern Links designation. I'd very much add another one here to this that should be in your scoring criteria, which relates to my first slide, and that is resilience and consequences scoring for when things go wrong, if they go wrong, which they seemingly often do. Like Moa Point, where they can't even get a pipe right, seemingly like that. So, I think for your benefit, from a director's point of view, that should be undertaken on this list. I haven't put that in there. We'd like to ask that you require a transparent documentation pathway for this. As we've said, we haven't been able to see the cultural scoring aspect of the previous one, 50% of the scoring. And we'd request that you pause progression of the Range Road pathway and redirect some resources, or all the resources, we'd say, to this Site X as a comparative assessment. That said, there may be other sites in that previous scoring thing that could score higher if you reassess them with including that resilience and consequence. Apologies, but that tells me I should have stopped on my 8 minutes. I'll do it on watch. We'd like to make sure that you engage with the affected parties. We've got our residents group, but there's very much the iwi group that have expressed concerns to you, and they've got a petition to Parliament, and a number of them are here today. They've been mobilising in the area. We'd very much say that we're happy to facilitate, because we've been dealing with the landowner there that's made this sort of land available. We're happy to facilitate, and we would like to facilitate in this process in terms of engagement with that landowner and the potential for further use. So in a nutshell, with me speaking slightly too fast, that's it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Perhaps if we do have a little bit of time for questions if Tim or Dave have any. Perhaps, first of all, thank you for coming along. It's an interesting presentation. I'd like to thank you not just for focusing on the challenges of the current proposal, but actually for constructively coming up with some ideas for solutions as well. We will, as Chair, I'm going to commit now, we will review what you put together, so take that as given. I think you're right, resilience is very high in mind with Moa Point, but also the stormwater events in Otahonga recently as well. So looking for how we improve resilience, how we avoid single points of failure, and all those sorts of things are very high in mind at the moment. Do Tim or Dave have any questions for Chris?
Just one question. I really thank you for coming along, Chris. Very informative your presentation. Just one question. In terms of the landowner, they're quite supportive of what you're proposing? Oh, very much. We wouldn't be. He's a busy man, and it's taken us a while to work through issues with him. And as you may well be aware, the 6.5 hectare
site on the airport side of this, I think, is Tainui land. The two yellow bits, Transit own the top one, Tainui own the right-hand one. So he's actually very much thinks that, you know, it's land that's orphaned for him, but he has been talking to Tainui and you know, all land things get complicated in terms of, he's very much supportive of how this is going. We're not dropping it on him or you.
Cool. And we'll respond in writing, Kevin?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Couple of thoughts, if I can. Thank you, Dr. Hickey and everyone else for coming along and being here. And certainly for me, after hearing about different sites last time, I've been visiting the one and I walked down and viewed the stream. And so I think nothing beats actually seeing things. So I look forward to visiting Site X, I think.
It's actually bigger than might look on that plan.
I'm sure, and that's the sort of thing when you're actually there
Yeah.
and standing and on what is currently farmland, etc. You go, oh, this gives you a different picture. But anyway, certainly for me, you know, we're only looking to respond to growth, and if Hamilton and Waikato District were growing, we wouldn't have to be doing any of this at all. So it's not something that we just wanted to do, I suppose, to make that point. It's about the growth and the land size and shape for wastewater treatment plants are both important to, and certainly for me as a board member and my colleagues, I know that it's a critical decision because once it then starts going through the process and if something is built and something will be built somewhere in due course, well, it's there for 100 years. So we're very aware of that, and so thank you for the presentation and more food for thought as well. We get to clearly all these critical evaluation processes. So,
We're very aware of that. We're supportive of the need for that. But I would like to emphasise again, it's both resilience of your plant operational, you know, you want pipes and your equipment, but also the environmental consequences.
the totality for the community is critically important.
Yes,
So,
and all of those, which we haven't seen today. And, you know, I think this is essential for the year.
Okay.
thank you, Paul.
All right.
So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I've got a one page I'm going to drop on you as I walk out the door, which is just a sort of summary of some of the literature stuff from Europe. There's quite a lot on. There was no time to talk through those, but there's a few of these somebody can hand round, but they're just a one pager of examples of system failures, and there's lots of literature around here. So.
Okay. No, I really appreciate you coming along and everyone being here for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for the time.
Okay. In terms of the chair's report, I haven't done a formal report in the normal way, to be honest.
There's a chief executive.
Yeah, there's a chief executive's report which covers that. And I think going forward, what I'll have a discussion with Peter about what the format is as BAU as to whether a chair's report is actually needed at all. And I'd certainly want to make sure that Peter's reporting to every board meeting, which will be every other month in a normal business year, rather than 6 monthly. But I think it's a comprehensive report here today. And it is further down the agenda, isn't it, Peter's report? Was it the 6 month? It's this IAWAI 6 monthly report, isn't it? Effectively?
That's separate.
Right.
Item 6 is I think it might be up the agenda.
Right. So am I getting mixed up here with the agenda? So it's not on my agenda.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah.
It's item 6 under PACS.
Peter's report. I have read it. So over to you, Peter.
Thank you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because it's a very large agenda that sits in front of you. But I suppose probably the key takeaways of this today marks a very significant step forward in the whole of the establishment process with the mix of the transfer agreement that's included and the water services strategy. In terms of the balance of the establishment process, I've forgotten which version of 80 days, it's something like 82 or 81 working days to go until we go live. So there is still a lot to do. And I suppose the good news on that is, by and large, we are still on track for what we need to have done by day one. Gavin and I have been working very closely in terms of how we make sure that anything that looks a bit sideways or not progressing as rapidly as it needs to is addressed and resourced appropriately, and that's a very constructive working relationship. And the last reflection that I included in there was really to put on record that we've certainly looked at the impact of both the Moa Point experience and the recent rainfall events across Waipa and Otaronga, and that has given more impetus to the work we've been doing around emergency management and preparedness. If that rain had been just slightly further north, we would have had a whole different kettle.
Yeah, and I think it's something Peter and I have been talking about, making sure that as we look at each of the capital investments going forward, resilience has to be right up there. So Phuket would be a good example, wouldn't it, with Moa Point in mind, to make sure that we design that with resilience so that it can actually doesn't have a single point of failure going forward, etc. Yeah.
The only other thing I'd say that's not covered in there, but in response to the Chair's point about what does business as usual reporting look like, my sense is that in addition to what's in the public agenda, we will need to ensure we've got the space in the PX session to deal with anything that's sensitive or emerging, and we will structure the agendas to achieve that.
Yeah, great. Any issues with Peter's report?
Just one thought that certainly after 1 July, I'd love to have in a board agenda a session on single points of failure.
Yeah, and resilience. Yeah.
Sort of, for me, it's more what are from an awareness of single points of failure, and one of the ones that's stuck in my mind, for better or worse, is the floating intake on the Waikato River.
Or the lack of a floating intake.
And if the river drops below a certain level, then the intake's in air. And so what are the single points of failure, and actually then not looking for solutions for those, but just an awareness of it. So as the ongoing capital plans are built to go, well, actually, how does this address points of failure? So I think it's really important.
If I may respond to that, we're busy working through what will be a sequence of risk workshops, which will include that dimension.
And that's perfect, thank you.
And what I'm anxious to achieve is the opportunity for all of our staff and those that are responsible for operating networks to identify in a safe space the things that keep them awake at night, which goes directly to where are the single points of failure, what are the things that may or may not have been raised in the past and not dealt with, so that we can get all of that on the table, and the next generation of the Capital Works program then needs to figure out which of those we address and how quickly. And Andrew and I have been talking through what that means in terms of the recast of the Capital Works program for Water Services Strategy 2.
Certainly when we've had this discussion before, but when I was involved in the Paul's Kaikoura earthquake resilience work, we did that with the central government, and we looked across all of the key utility and critical services. And what became really apparent was there was billions being invested in building safety, but there were relatively modest investments in water, in electricity, in transport corridors that delivered massive improvements in resilience at relatively modest investment levels. So looking at the whole system in that way, I know the team do this anyway, but we as a board haven't yet done that. And I think as a board early on, in the next few months, that is something we definitely need to do to test what the resilience levels are with the current plans.
And if I add to that, Kevin, to give some realism to some of these single point of failure areas, it'd be good to be upfront and inform our communities as well. these are the challenges that we're facing, and if it's in their face, they know that this is real.
I don't want to belabor it, but if I could pick up Peter's point that I thought was very well made. In a previous role, we found that the team knew what the single points of failure were, but the executive actually didn't know them. And so actually doing it in an honest, my language, bring out your dead, like tell us all the problems, don't like try and cover it up, because actually we're all in this together. And so it is safe, and but then so that it's actually all uncovered.
The other conversation that Andrew and I were having yesterday was around risk appetite. Where I suppose the experience is when you're going through the conversation about how much you invest, everybody logically comes to a view of, well, this is an acceptable risk or it's not. And then you come out the other end and something's gone wrong, and you very quickly discover that as far as the community is concerned, that was not an acceptable risk. And therefore we need to be quite careful in terms of our thinking about risk appetite, because there will be circumstances in which a wastewater treatment plant can fail. And if we do that, then the next logical consequence is untreated wastewater in the Waikato River. And that is not an outcome that will not be acceptable. So how we go from where we are now and the risks associated with our operation to perhaps a rather different risk profile is going to be a really important piece of the next water services strategy.
So I think this is where this is all leading. I'm looking at Natasha now, is for us to do some sort of deep dive in a few months' time, I think, on resilience and single points of failure, and to effectively kick the tires on our CapEx program in the light of that. And then come back as part of water services strategy 2.0 next year with any revisions to the capital program in the light of that. That's where it's leading, isn't it?
So Chair, if it's helpful for me, because we've established a board, so clearly between you and Peter and Natasha, as long as it's in calendar year 2026, I'm relaxed. I'm aware of how much the team have got to do the next few months as well, but we're comfortable if it's this year. I think it's critically important, and for water services strategy, it's not the next 10 years, it's the 10 years after that, and the 10 years after that, and the 10 years after that. But anyways, thank you.
I suppose one of the reasons that I'm keen to do it sooner rather than later is that it also goes to what are the design standards that we expect for everything new that we are about to commission or have in flight. Because if it's geared around a risk profile that doesn't work for us, we need to make sure we don't build it that way.
Okay, all good. So we can note that report and move on to the next item, which is the establishment program report.
So we've got Gavin online.
And Gavin, you're online. Welcome.
Kia ora.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so look, Peter's covered some of the stuff that I was going to talk about, which I guess is symbolic of the fact that we're working very closely together to make sure that we get to 1 July successfully. Probably the things that have occupied our time, I'll talk later about the transfer agreement. That has been a big piece of work for the establishment team. And in terms of the other things in particular, I wanted to just, again, I'm conscious of your time. The digital systems is probably the area of which we need to focus more on, and we'll be putting more attention into now we've got the transfer agreement as far as we have. That's probably the area of most concern to me at the moment. And obviously, once we get the transfer agreement agreed by the councils, then we move very much into actually all the issues around transferring assets, transferring land, and getting all those things underway. Mr. Chair, I know that's very brief, but look, I've given you the report. I'm happy to answer any questions from the report, but I think that really is a very brief summary of what's happening and where the establishment team is at.
I'm looking at Tim or Dave. Are there any questions for Gavin on this report? We are going to be dealing with the actual transfer agreements in detail later, aren't we, Gavin? In
Yeah. Yes.
A couple of things, if I can. G'day, Gavin. How are you?
I'm good, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you for the report and your comments. That's perfect for me. There's a couple of things in the detail that are off track. You spoke about digital, so I won't ask about those, but the people,
Yes.
staff mapping and structure, I mean, that could just be from when your report was actually done, because of course 1 July isn't going to move,
No.
and we need our people to be there in our digital and our finance systems. So just, is that now okay?
I might deal with the people stuff since
Sure.
at the front end of that. People is almost okay.
Okay.
The piece that we are still waiting for is further analysis of the impact of the shared services and cost allocation framework inside residual Hamilton City Council, so that we can confirm that we have actually transferred sufficient and the necessary staff. So it's a check at the margin rather than the core.
Right.
All of the other elements of the people work stream in terms of the transfer are well in hand to be offering letters of offers of employment immediately following the adoption of the transfer agreement by both councils.
Okay, fabulous, thank you. And the financial ones, financial reporting, revenue collection, policy seem pretty important. That might be also done now. That's on page 15 of diligence.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of focus in the finance area was around the water services strategy. Now that hopefully the board adopts that this morning, but obviously once you get past that, then we can focus on some of the other aspects there. I think it's I think the finance area will come back on stream now. I think it'll be I think we will be able to meet the deadlines. So
Cool.
Yeah.
And finally, what's your confidence level like about getting to 1 July in good shape?
We have to make it. So I'd say 80%.
Okay. Thank you for your honesty, and thank you and the team for the excellent work. So, much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Is there anything from you, Tom? Yeah.
I'll probably, can I just say we'll get there. Whether it's 100% perfect, I can't guarantee, but we'll find ways to make it work, which we have to.
Awesome. Thank you for your honesty.
Thanks, Gavin. So it's a full information report. We'll note that and move on to the next report, which is
just before we do that, I'll give an example of where things won't be completely tidy. The transfer of land that's dealt with in the transfer agreement has a bunch of things that will happen after 1 July. The fact that they won't be completed before then does not matter. And so, there's a range of things where Gavin's statement around it might not be 100% perfect. There are things that we absolutely have to nail, others where we already know what the workarounds are. I think you can have confidence that on the 1st of July we will be in control of the business and able to operate.
If I can, Mr. Chair, that what's been achieved since the establishment board has been set up is nothing short of phenomenal, and the dedication and the results that people have got, because working hard's okay, but actually achieving things and the things that have been achieved are just first class. So just reiterate that, and it's it's the oversight of it. So there's certainly nothing but, from me, and massive appreciation for everything that's been done, and the trust that we know that from 1 July it'll be all right.
That's from the board as a whole too.
Yeah, totally agree with that sentiment. So again, thank you, Gavin. We'll note that report and move on to the next item, which is the Natasha, the 6th monthly report.
Thank you, Chair. And Dave, that comment is a great segue into the 6th monthly report, which sets out what we have achieved over the past 6 months, which, as you say, is a huge amount of work. So IAWAI is required to produce a 6th monthly report. We will submit this to shareholders and it will become publicly available on our website. Although we won't operate the Waters network until the 1st of July, the report outlines the focus on establishment, on setting the governance foundations for IAWAI, the work in developing the water services strategy, all while also taking responsibility over some transformational projects. And it has the financials for the past 6 months. So everything is within the budgets that were approved by shareholder councils. And I think, as you will see in the detail of that, there have been some real successes in the past 6 months with a very tight team working on that.
And just to stand back and recognise that for the benefit of any members of the public and the press here, there's some big numbers in the water services strategy and there's some big numbers in the transfer agreements that we're going to come to shortly. But actually at the moment, we've got a board of 3 and a team of 10 doing the transition, with a lot of staff from Hamilton and Waikato District leaning in for part of their time. And I think that, we've been very frugal, I think rightly so, with the public's money. And people are working really well together and that's delivering results, but it is very light touch. Obviously, from the 1st of July, we'll have a team of circa 300 people running water services. But at the moment, it's a very lean and mean ship, and that needs to be recognised. And I think they've achieved a hell of a lot. So now we're going to, again, if we can formally note that report and move on to one of our main items, which is the water services strategy. I'd just like to take a little bit of time to introduce that, if I may, Vishal. I'll then invite you to speak. This is quite a momentous report, I think, in many ways. We will be the first in the country to go out for public consultation. There are only 2 water entities nationally going for a hard start in July, along with ourselves. It's Selwyn District Council Water Services Operation on the South Island. There are a few other entities going live in July, but they're soft starts, so they're not doing a full pricing plan and strategy. We are. So this is really quite significant, and I think if you stand back from it all, it's a strong picture for me. One, a focus, as we've been saying, on a safe transition, make sure that we get over the line, that the public don't really notice the difference. Things continue to work on day one. We've been looking at the forecast increases we inherited from the councils. They've basically been halved, significantly reduced. We've got a growth levy, so that growth starts to pay for growth. We've got a major partnership on renewals that is underway, so that we've got an enhanced and long-term position on renewals, which is critical for water infrastructure. We've got the largest capital program outside of water care in the country. That's pretty significant at $3 billion. We are addressing a series of compliance issues for wastewater and drinking water, particularly in Waikato District, either through an upgrade of a facility or a new plant. So these are really significant things. We've got a pilot for water meters underway We've got a joint digital platform with Taronga and Western Bay Premier that we're considering later. It's a pretty stunning start, I think, for a new entity. And I guess the conversation for the board after we've heard from Vishal are we comfortable with that overall direction? Is there anything missing in the current strategy? Are there any areas of concern? And I think it would also be worth us picking through some of the main items, Tim and Dave, the growth levy, the approach to renewals, the scale of the capital program, those sorts of issues, if we could. So, Vishal, do you want to, could I also say, actually, just have some thanks before Vishal speaks? It's been a team effort across all three organisations involving a lot of people. But in terms of those who've been interacting with the board, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Vishal, who's been in the middle of it all, coordinating this, to Natasha, to Nicole, to Andrew Parsons, and to Gary and his team on the finance side. I think it's been a huge effort to get to this stage, and well done to everyone. Over to Vishal.
Thank you, Chairperson. Kia ora, everybody. Happy Māori. I think, Chair, you said you covered quite a lot of what I was going to say. I'm not going to repeat those things, but this has been this has been an 8-month journey, and the WSS reflects both the board's guidance and it's informed by the shareholding councils and our partners' statement of expectations. I'll take the report and the attachments, which includes a designed version of the consultation document and the full water services strategy, which is a MS Word version, but it will be designed as well before it goes out to consultation, the fees and charges, and the significance engagement policy and the waiver policy, which are all attached to the agenda as read. Just a minor change to the consultation version of the WSS, to the version that you've got, but the version that will go out will indicate on page 40 of the agenda, which is page 7 of the consultation version, that IAWAI is considering creating a new waiver for growth charges relating to Papakainga development. So that will be included in the fees and charges document. And also with regards to the breakdown of the growth charge as it applies to commercial developments, Peter has had some conversations with developers. So I'd just like to hand over to Peter just to say a few words about that and potential changes that would need to be made to the document.
Thanks, Michelle. So the introduction of growth charges is one of the key features of the water services strategy. And following our discussions, we have initiated some pre-consultation discussions with a number of developers. What that has highlighted is the framework that is in the document in front of you for non-residential charges is rather too blunt and needs to be refined to better distinguish between industrial major users, industrial warehousing, and other commercial to better align with the actual demand that they place on the water and wastewater networks. So whilst what we're proposing you do this morning is to adopt the strategy as it is, subject to further refinement of the non-residential growth charge, and that you delegate to me responsibility for doing that so that we can still maintain the consultation timeframe that we are committed to and deliver the draft agreement to the shareholders. In essence, we're working through a different approach to tiering charges and probably also a more open approach that makes it clear that we We are wide open to alternative suggestions through the consultation process that might further refine the nature of that charge. So certainly in the conversations we've had to date, there's a significant willingness from the development community to engage in that conversation, but also an acceptance that the fundamental problem that development contributions do not pay for growth, do not pay the full cost of growth, needs to be addressed.
So effectively, what you're asking for, which I'm comfortable, is the delegated authority to basically look at a more nuanced approach to the non-residential growth levy aspects that addresses the wet industrial, the dry industrial, and the commercial in a more nuanced way. I'd be keen that at the appropriate time, when you've done that work and you've got a proposition to use in wet concrete, that we can at least have an informal conversation before that's formally brought to the board.
You will, depending on my ability to multitask during the meeting, you'll see that shortly.
I think that's an excellent approach.
Yeah.
And commend the team for talking to developers and listening to them and going, actually, how do we do something that's right for IAWAI and right for the community? So fully supportive. I think it's excellent.
So let's again come back to my opening comments to Tim and Dave. Does this feel like we're on the right lines? Have we got the right balance? Is there anything missing? Are there any concerns? So to open the discussion.
Just wanted to reaffirm the supporting remarks from the chief in regards to the shed. Both myself and Dave acknowledge all the hard work that's gone in. Just a couple of things. Peter, also to the board, just wanting to reaffirm that the board is keen to be able to assist those low-income households when it comes to these water charges, and if the team can look at different initiatives to try and assist those low-income households or renters to be able to deal with some of these water charges, that would be great, Peter. And the other one that I had, just touching on the Papakainga matter, that further refinement you're looking at, will that look at Papakainga as well?
So what we've provided for in the document is the revised document is the provision that growth charges related to Papakainga housing may be discounted or waived, subject to negotiation, the particular context and any prior agreements. That can be further refined during the consultation process, but I think that again, pre-consultation feedback indicated that we need to be careful that we don't sort of tramp on top of understandings or agreements that have been entered into around the servicing of particular marae and Papakainga with the introduction of growth charge. And we need to create the space where we can continue those conversations. Where we land in the final version may be in a different place once we've talked further with marae through the consultation process.
Thanks, Peter.
Could I just build on Tim's first point, because I think it's not particularly an issue for this water services strategy, but it will be an issue for water services strategy 2.0 in a big way. So effectively now we are largely keeping the existing capital value arrangements, so there's very little impact at the moment. But we have a water metering pilot that is about to begin. As we work through that and roll that out, there may well be later during this year proposals for the rollout of metering. We would, in any event, even without metering, have to move in a significant way to fixed charges. So that whole issue needs to be resolved. That then does raise, I think, the issue of what happens to low-income households in all of that. We know from our friends up north, Dave, they have a trust, which is arm's length to water care, to deal with people who are unable
to assist.
Yeah.
Assist.
to help that process for low-income households who are finding it hard. And I think that's something we need to look at together, isn't it?
Yes.
To bring together sort of water services strategy 2.0. It will depend on what is the balance between fixed charges and user pays, what are the impacts of all of that, and what's the best way to provide assistance. Is it something we, as a water entity, do direct, or do we, like Water Care, have an arm's length arrangement for helping? And I think all of that needs to be absolutely looked at a bit further down the line when we're clear
Sure.
what the charging picture looks
And looking
like.
at WDC costs and thinking about some of those communities potentially, it's covered by the WDC waiver policy, but in due course, it needs to continue to be looked at.
In terms of the current strategy, we have adopted the waiver, the remission arrangements of both councils, haven't we?
So we've replicated the current waiver framework from both councils.
Yeah.
In terms of the government's rebate scheme, water charges count as if they were rates for someone that's applying for a rebate through that scheme. And equally, we have adopted and applied the same penalties framework for non-payment as both councils previously had.
Are you comfortable with that, Tim? So effectively, where it's very little change at the moment, but it becomes a significant change going forward, and therefore we will do that piece of work.
It's great.
That's fine with me. Given it was really just getting it on the radar early, getting that initial groundwork.
Okay, but otherwise you're comfortable with the balance. Dave, yourself?
Yeah, I had 4 areas, but to start up, I echo your comments. I think the document that's been produced is fantastic, and the public feedback form also just is in great shape. So thank you for that. If you can get a couple of the easy ones off, there's only one tricky one probably, but out of the 4. So from a growth levy, fully endorse, won't go to that. And I was trying to think through and get it in my own mind straight. Well, there's no inflationary index on the $500 a year. And so, and just to help me from my understanding, really not, was that growth charges are effectively for residential, are effectively a total amount at today's dollars based on the contribution today divided by 25 years. So therefore, like a table mortgage or something, well, therefore there's no CPI or anything because it was established at a point in time and it's just spread over time. So that sort of makes sense. And then if that is sort of right, that each year it's right to then review those costs and go, why are the costs now? Divide that by 25 years. So it may or may not be relevant to CPI at all. If our costs don't move significantly or much from one year to the next, well, it could stay the same for quite some time. Likewise, if there was hyperinflation, then actually the cost of development might go up substantially, but it reflects the costs in today's dollars, then just divided by 25, as opposed to saying to someone you have to pay the whole lump sum now. So if that's really how we're thinking, then
I think that really captures what's reflected in what we have, and
because being online with both councils, it came through. Why isn't this index, etc. Well, it's sort of trying to think
so,
it wouldn't be.
Another key part from our point of view was how do we provide certainty to the homeowner?
Yep.
And that means when you signed up and it's $500 in total per annum, that's what it is.
Yeah. I guess
if I go back to the cost may change next year, so we will need to regularly review the total amount, the amount of the charge that applies for new dwellings that arrive in the next year or in 3 years' time. They may pay more than this amount.
Yes.
But if your dwelling arrives during the 26-27 year, it's $500. That's it.
Because it reflects the costs that we've got now.
So just to be really crystal clear on that, from the 1st of July, a newly consented development, a homeowner buys a property in one of these sites, there's a charge of $500 for 25 years. It does not get indexed. The following year,
Yeah.
it might be a different charge depending on the inflation position in the sector
Yeah.
and the costs we're actually
It's
experiencing.
from a retailer.
Technically, it's a water charge and a
And
wastewater
and they
charge.
could, they might change in a they
Yes,
might
yes.
move in what, in
In
parallel,
different, yeah.
actually, they might
Yes.
move differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was, I mean, it's probably a stupid thing, but like if you went and put something on lay-by, you
Yeah.
don't actually own it until you pay it off.
Yeah.
But the price doesn't change just because it's taken you a while to pay it off.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, there's the price and you pay it off for a 60-month term, or if you go to Harvey Norman or something, they don't go, oh, now the price is higher. So, okay, thank you.
Point number 2.
Stormwater concerns me.
Yeah.
Full stop. Third point. So stormwater concerns me, yeah. So I know that's not we're going to be doing it in contract, but in due course, I just wanted to get that logged, particularly given the flooding, etc., and how that will work, and thinking about Mara Point. And for me, the people that are completely absent of Mara Point is Veolia. And so I was thinking, well, actually, for stormwater, we'll be a bit, you know, with a contractor, we're not going to be where we need to do things. But
So there'll also be a big issue then around stormwater and the long-term plan for stormwater, really, which become, and then the implications for us in our water services strategy 2.0.
And because we're the contractor, I want us to be skinny on our resource to actually fulfill the contracting responsibility for stormwater, because if something goes wrong, to your earlier points, just go, well, EOI never told us about this, EOI didn't highlight that risk to us, and so therefore, you know, like it's their fault. Well, I'll actually be the contractor for stormwater.
So on the stormwater, with the stormwater service agreement, will be coming to you directly, and we are endeavouring to get that tied up with the transfer agreement process so that it's clear. The discussion that we've had with both councils in terms of what we need to do in the first year of that includes a focus on a review and reset piece of work that's designed to make sure that we step our way through exactly the sort of risk failure discussion that we had about water and wastewater, but for stormwater, so that we can help the councils work through what their exposure and investment requirements for stormwater look like, and that will support a review / restatement of the stormwater program through both councils' long-term plan process for next year.
Right.
Yep.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Kevin.
And just to add to that, just to give the board some comfort, that staff from both councils are working collaboratively on the stormwater strategies with the respective councils as part of the LTP, so that work is underway.
Right. Okay. Thank you. On page 145, diligent, there's lots of service metrics. I just wanted to check because there's lots of them. Are those all the ones that we have to have, or we added any ourselves? So you don't have to. We can log it. My inclination will be don't add any that aren't required from IAWAI or DIA, because there are lots.
Or ComCom.
Or ComCom.
They're about to come out with a
Yeah, so, you know, we've got leakage percentages and residual chlorines, et cetera, et cetera. So, there's lots of them.
a limited number.
So, anyway, for you to think about. The one that, I guess, the last one that I'm still concerned about on behalf of ourselves as the board, but also the business, is the CapEx program. And two elements of that. One, and particularly given, if I read it right, that quite a few, there are some projects and big dollars in delivery and construction, so there'll be dollars going out for delivery, so it's much easier to get. There's still lots of projects, quite rightfully, that are in design or feasibility or scoping. You've got some really hard dollars in there, and given the oversight that's going to come in 28 from Commerce Commission, which I'm sure every week seems a long way off, but it's not very far. And of course, the charges that we're looking to establish going in here is also based on the CapEx program, and so that deliverability of the dollar outcome of the program, and then secondly, the executive and the team, noting the earlier comments, Kevin, about how few people are actually in the teams full-time, is the resource. And it takes time to recruit resource. But nevertheless, the resource to deliver it and the actual deliverability, and I would hate to think through the strategy in the first couple of years, as we reported to the shareholder forum ago, we're under the CapEx and not wanting to be the water care to WDC that's there today, going, well, what the hell aren't you delivering? So
I think
it's not anything about trust of the team, it's been a massively speedy process, but that I wouldn't want the strategy to set the team up to it's going to be difficult enough without making it harder from a delivery perspective. So that capital delivery.
we had a useful discussion.
So really keen that the team go, we actually believe
we can do that.
We can do it, because with the headroom, if there is extra, there is capacity in the business, which is probably different to how councils previously approached it, to go, actually, there is ability to do more. If it says in the water strategy we're going to do something, and then we don't, the first couple of years, that credibility for all of us really falling together is so important. So just a final chance for me to push on that, really.
Yeah, and look, this is a board position. I think we're all, we see this as the biggest risk area really in the plan. We would, first of all, be keen informally to be able to kick the tires on the program, to have the right sort of reporting really around those projects we're fully in control of, those projects that are dependent on the developer or a consent process, to separate that out, to look at when we've got full state, what management capacity we have for the program, and is it enough to really distract it, etc. But ultimately, if you look nationally at the moment, I would say the sector's only delivering 65% of the 100%. There is a degree of overcharging of residents and businesses, and we are part of that. We've seen it particularly in Waikato District, but also in Hamilton, but particularly in Waikato District. So we need to put our best foot forward with the target we can achieve, particularly for those projects we're fully in control of. There are wider considerations. I think we need to probably unpack this a bit when we get on to Jackie's report next. But we want you to be in the best position to do the best you can with whatever targets we. That's where we're coming from.
Thank you. So, and for me, the team need to respond. I can see them nodding away, but anyway.
I think if we can have a deep dive on sort of kicking the tires again on the programme, I'm keen that when we finalise Peter's objectives, there's an element, capital is a critical part of this, that we have a target we're all comfortable with. And we also need to look forward strategically, don't we, into the future. The next few years are going to get very, very challenging in this space as every water entity in the country increases their spend significantly. And supply doesn't necessarily adjust. So these challenges are going to get tougher.
100%, and I was thinking about the risk of that. Yes, just going through the documents. So actually, if we don't get the right pricing, the team may recommend to the board that actually pause till we get better pricing, because of capacity, if it's a non-critical thing, which would be a really prudent thing. And the CRL have definitely got CapEx out the door, but in completely the wrong way. And so that's also no good. It's going, well, here's the project and the budget, and if it overruns by 30%, well, the capital might look good, but for all the wrong reasons.
But the other side of it as well, and again, we did discuss this in private, is around the fact that we are the first in the country to be doing this. We're at least most water entities are going live with their plan next year or the year after. So we've probably got a 2-year window. We need to use that window, don't we, to the best for the people of Waikato and Hamilton to get the best value as well. So there is an opportunity there, being an early mover and using that to full advantage. So getting, and Andrew's already progressing this, I think, in the renewals partnership is a good example. Looking for a long-term arrangement now is a great way of building up.
Without prolonging the conversation, I was just going to suggest that maybe I ask Nicole to give you a sense of the consultation process and what comes next before you resolve.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, so we're going to public consultation on Tuesday, and we will open up a online feedback form which will share the water services summary and all that IAWAI is proposing to the community. There'll be a series of stakeholder emails and letters going out that day as well. If there is anyone we haven't picked up, please let me know, but I will let you know who those go to. We're also holding, as Peter said earlier, they've done some pre-engagement with developers. We're holding 2 developer sessions, one in Hamilton and one in Pōkeno, which is in collaboration with the 2 councils. So we're working in partnership with them for those sessions. And that will be an opportunity to share details of the plan, how it addresses how can unlock capacity constraints, the capital program, and those water charges and new growth water charges. We'll also be at the Waikato Tainui Regatta on 21 March. I'll be sending out some details on that today. We'll be alongside Waikato District Council for that, an opportunity to talk with the community, hopefully use our water model to educate on the source of water from river to tap. And similarly in Hamilton, aligning with the popular Balloons Over Waikato events to reach the community here and have a similar community engagement opportunity with them. We're also doing a series of media stories, profiling some of the key projects and the strategy, as well as some of the key proposals that we'll be putting out throughout the 4 weeks of consultation. Consultation closes on 6th April, so just following Easter, in which then you will receive the insights report, as well as how that all worked out and the feedback that we received during that period. I'll be working through a few other opportunities that might happen over those 4 weeks, but I'll keep you updated as they are confirmed and progressed.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Peter, any other issues you want to raise? I mean, we've had a good discussion around some aspects of the emerging plan.
Only in wrap up to say, this has been a major piece of work to get to this point, and I'm sure that as a result of public feedback, there will be changes, and in particular, I think we need to highlight complete openness to alternatives to the way in which we express growth charges for non-residential activities. I'm looking forward to feedback from the public. And the last thing, I suppose, is to highlight, as was recorded in the media releases this week, the effort that has gone on to deliver not only a very large capital works program, but to use debt to smooth the impact on our customers, so that we are looking at substantially lower charges than would otherwise have been the case. Just having said that, they are still increases, and I think we will understand that any price increase is difficult.
I think we made a very big step forward in terms of addressing affordability concerns, as you said, in this strategy. There are still some significant increases there, but they are significantly less than the ones we inherited from 2 councils, and I think everyone should be appreciative of that.
Just wanted to make mention of those press releases. I thought they were quite informative. Very informative.
So I'll just
So we have some wording here.
The revised recommendations, revised from your pack, and that's to reflect the conversation that's happened and the delegation to the Chief Executive, who will have conversations with you on the refinement of the non-residential growth charges.
So without further ado, are we comfortable signing those 2 recommendations off then?
100% for me. I'd love something in the recommendation, in the agreement, if it's okay, Kevin, sorry, in the resolution. That if you're in agreement with it, that we've asked the team to another chance in the refinement of the deliverability of the capital program.
Yes, and actually, and there is a point that we did discuss what we are going to do. I do also want to look at the governance aspects of that
Yes.
part of it.
Yes.
So if we can look at.
So, and for me, it is a request. Oh, it's not a request, not a work, well, for me, the words would be that we request the team to look again through this period at the deliverability of the capital program. And then at the end of it, of the the consultation period to go, yep, hand on heart, that's what we're going to be held to account.
And that as part of it, we'll look at the governance arrangements for the oversight of the capital program. What's that called? What that's called for is whether we need a capital subcommittee that really does kick the tires on a regular bit. I think we do, but we should look at that. Yeah.
So, so if you're okay with that,
Yeah.
Kevin and Natasha and Peter are.
And then we've got a number of other points which were in the standard pack, weren't there? And Natasha, these are the change points, really.
Yes, we're also requesting that the board approve formally the significance and engagement policy for consultation and the waiver policy.
Okay, we're comfortable with all of that, right?
I'll just wordsmith that request, but
It could almost be full stop after strategy.
Yeah, agreed.
If they've reviewed it and they come and the team say, well, there's no change, well, then they have provided the assurance.
Yeah.
Excellent, agreed.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, great. Excellent. And now we move on to Jackie. This is in a way a continuation of the discussion we just began.
Mr. Chairman, given that we've got morning tea downstairs in about 3 minutes, I wonder whether we should adjourn now and do that and come back.
Yeah, happy to do that. Yeah, okay. And how long are we going to need for morning tea?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. So, well, let's just do a nice round number. We'll restart at 11 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
Welcome to the table, Captain. We're adjourned. Different types of skills.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we really
Peter, I saw some water rainfall gauges for Morrinsville and Morrinsville that same day, and it was chalk and cheese. It was like, what's on it was like
250 mils, not?
yeah, and I think a month after Morrinsville was only like maybe 20 or 10.
So let's reconvene and get on with that. And we're on to Jackie's report on the transfer projects. And I think it's actually quite a good, I'll say a few words of introduction, Jackie, and then pass it over. It's a good follow-on from the discussion we were having during the water services strategy. We've got some really big projects here. We're moving into challenging times, you know. For the last decade, when we've been talking about water reform, actually things haven't really changed much on the ground. In the next few years, there's going to be a very big increase nationally in investment, which means there's going to be a war for talented contractors and partners. We've also got quite a lot of staff we've lost to Australia. So we've lost some capacity. They're probably not going to be coming back in the short term. We've got aging workforce in the sector. We're lucky in Hamilton and Waikato to have quite a young workforce ourselves, but in the sector as a whole, it's aging. You put all of this together, the future looks with much increased investment, reduced capacity is a challenge. We're an early mover, so we need to take advantage of that. So we're really keen, and this is effectively monitoring where we are in the project. We're going forward, kicking the tires with the capital program, being really on top of it in governance terms, helping you be in the best position you can be to manage these projects well. So what extra capacity, because we're a small team, what capacity do we need going forward to do this? Being really innovative about how we do it, being the best organisation in water in New Zealand to work with a private sector partner so that we attract the best, doing it in a way that uses our early mover advantage to lock people in and get people recruited locally for engineers and staff to work on these projects. And dare I say it, looking at us and expanding our in-house capability going forward as well. That's the sort of mix of things that we need to be looking at. And we, as a board, I think, in governance terms, probably having a dedicated committee that kicks the tires on a regular basis in this space. But we want the team to succeed. We want to land on a number of how much we're actually going to deliver next year that we can deliver. That's where we're coming from. We don't want this to be in any way adversarial. It's about support and getting stuff done on the ground. That's where we're coming from. But over to you, Jackie, in terms of where we are in these projects. But I think there's a bit of work to do to get us in the right position going forward, and we want to be part of that support.
Tēnā tātou katoa, kia ora, Kevin, for those opening comments. So this report relates to the transfer projects. So you'll read in the report that there's dashboards like we've reported previously on the state of those particular projects. But you'll also note that we are starting to turn our minds more in a more focused way towards what happens come 1st of July, when it's not just a bundle of projects, it's everything that IAWAI will be responsible for. So from a reporting perspective, we're starting to think about, well, what systems currently exist and what might be useful for the board going forward from an activity level rather than just a transfer project or individual project perspective. We're also picking up Dave's point that he's raised a number of times, starting to think about at a portfolio level what type of health and safety and wellbeing reporting is appropriate. And really just lifting up, I guess, at that broader level. At the beginning of the report, you will see portfolio level risks, opportunities and issues. And the risks and concerns that you've outlined, Kevin and Dave, are squarely in our purview as well. We're putting some attention on them. The first is cost forecast versus capacity. So we see that as a real challenge. Not just locally, but at a national sector level. The mitigation that we have implemented for this period is to have a closer look at the capital works program, and that is what's in the water services strategy. But hearing the discussion earlier this morning, we definitely will go back and have another look and then have an offline session with the board just to have that deep dive to go through that more closely. As you will know, many of the transferred projects are the precursors to delivery of some of the significant capital within the water services strategy, and many of those are in planning stages. So working through that is a risk to delivery. We have tried to factor in delays and some conservatism into the overall program to reflect that there are a whole lot of planning processes that we need to get through before we can start building anything. In terms of efficient delivery of these big projects, we are looking at appointing program level managers, so having the resources to focus on big parts of the capital program, like Puketi Wastewater Treatment Plant, like all of the other smaller, relative to Puketi wastewater treatment plants, the bulk wastewater storage program, which is large in itself, and water reservoirs as well, so at that sort of level. So bringing in dedicated resource to drive delivery of those programs. What's occurred in the past is very much a project level focus. And I think as a result of that, you lose potential efficiencies and consistency in how those types of projects are planned for and delivered. So we're looking to appoint people into those roles soon, before the 1st of July if we can. And we also have a number of people working on that standardisation. So to give you an example, within Hamilton in the last 2 or 3 years, there have been a number of new water reservoirs planned for, designed, and either built or in the process of getting procured for construction. Different methodologies have been applied on things like site selection, and different design approaches have been taken. We're trying to remove all of that and standardise. From the consenting and planning perspective, we're also looking at standardising the types of conditions that we might apply to each of those. Obviously, that sits in the hands of the decision maker, but if we can do our best to try and boilerplate some of those key foundational pieces before we get into construction and procurement, we will. So workforce and resourcing, I think that is a national issue, and we've spoken, Kevin, around internships and potential partnerships on how we might address that, but that is a big challenge for everyone in the sector. So that is identified alongside industry capacity as a key risk to delivery of the program. The traffic light or the RAG assessment on the projects themselves, I'll leave for you to ask questions on. I will though call out a couple of the area or the projects that are in sort of red status. The first being your page 208, Pōkeno Tuako servicing strategy. And the reason that is in red is related to timing. So timing of delivery of that strategy compared to the pace at which some developments might want to get ahead and have servicing certainty. So that's the key reason for that one. And the other on your page 215, still in red, relates to the Hamilton East bulk wastewater storage facility. So we're still working through site selection and confirming site access for that project.
I thought that meeting we had with the Ministry of Education, by the way, we didn't deal specifically with that issue, but it was a good meeting, and I thought actually there are opportunities for us to work together that were obvious in the meeting as well.
I agree. I really appreciated that they understand the implications of infrastructure capacity constraints as it relates to what they're responsible for, but yes. And I'll leave it there and take questions.
Dave or Tim, any issues you wish to raise?
Thanks for the report, Jackie and Tim. Thanks for including the health safety and wellness update. That was gratefully received. I just have one question about water meters. When do you think we'll actually be digging holes and putting some in the ground?
So Andrew, on
About 23rd of March.
23rd of March, first one's being installed.
It's first spade on the ground.
Okay, so less than a month away.
Correct.
Awesome, thank you. I'll make a note of that.
What do you like with spades?
I'm bloody useless.
Would you like to hold the spade?
No, I don't hold the spade, but I'm really good at watching. Anyway, 23rd of March, that's awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it, thanks for the update.
Just in terms of, talk about program level versus project level. Piketty's its own program,
Yeah, it's
Due to
a mega
size.
project, but we've pulled that mega project together as a program. Yeah.
program, I'd say. Program. Just touching on that, Ministry of Education.
And we are, just on Phuket, we are putting in place its own unique governance arrangements.
It has its own governance structure with an independent chair.
Yeah.
So that structure has been in place for the last few months.
That's right.
But I think as part of trying to improve consistency and innovation in the way that we deliver our projects and programs, we are reviewing the overall governance, project level governance, not board level governance, structure, approaches and makeup over the next couple of months, just so we can streamline that where possible. Because we have a lot of different project control groups, program control groups, made up of 80% of the same people, and it's probably not an efficient use of those people's time.
Yeah, that's a very big project. There's lots of moving parts. There's lots of complexity around upgrading and still operating the site at the same time. I mean, it's going to be humdinger, isn't it? Yeah.
And just touching on what board and even discussions about having a social movement.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, I guess how that flows into, say, the project size. And would there be some differences to how it engages with smaller projects, really?
I think certainly we don't want to have board stuff that's repeating, or, we'll need to work together to make sure that we've got an arrangement that works for everyone and doesn't require people to do reports twice or 3 times or whatever.
Yeah.
So we need to look at that. But I think you've also got to have appropriate arrangements, and that's a really big, complex project. So I think it does require something more bespoke. Yeah.
It was really just making sure that some efficiencies in terms of
So
engages programs of that size.
okay. I think we're noting this report. We're comfortable.
Yes.
It's an area we want to look at, as we said in a couple of items today, in depth, with probably some workshop work, and then sort of resizing the capital program, making sure we're comfortable with the number we land on during 2026. Okay, so we'll note that and move on to the next project, the report, which is Andrew, on the acceleration fund. This is the one where we've got government funding, isn't it? And
That is correct. I'm happy to take it as read. It was really more for drawing the board's attention to arrangements that are already in place. Essentially, it was a fund. It was $1 billion fund that the government of the day put out as a contestable process. Hamilton City put in the bid that was ultimately successful. Probably of note, there was a late change to one of the programs in the bid at the member's request, and a bridge over the Waikato River was exchanged for an additional water project. So that's now a new break-in project, but the fund allocation of $150.6 million remains as fixed. There are delivery dates that are cast in contracts.
yeah, and we've got to hit them.
We've got to hit them. It's been run through NIFCO, and I also understand that periodically Cabinet receives reports on all the IA programs around the country. We're not privy to those reports, but I'm told that we feature very favourably.
Yeah. I guess from our point of view, we need to know at an early stage, don't we? if anything's going awry and what the get well plan looks like and all that, because we will lose the money if we don't deliver. That's the point.
Oh, it's worse than that.
Yeah.
You pay back what you've spent.
Yeah.
So the first big decision we'll be seeking from the board will be the award of the main reservoir construction, which will be later this year.
Yeah.
Followed by decision making around the award of bulk water mains that connects the reservoir system into the existing network.
Yeah.
It would be worth having a deep dive on those at the right time in the next 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other issues?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So page, if diligent, if that's okay, page 263. So I guess I've been lucky enough to go to the site where these reservoirs are. A couple of things occurred. Like I think the old one stays there, but it's not commissioned. But the new ones are pretty big and bulky. And so the question I got is from a community perspective that like the lids aren't going to be used. So there's some pretty significant trees that have to be chopped down, and people tend to get upset about that sort of thing. And then the scale of them compared to what's already there is completely necessary. But my question is there any inability to use the tops of the reservoirs as so the community been through this and so that the community can have access? It's like the scale of them, etc. And like this, I think there may be 10 or 12 meters off the ground level, and like so people go, "You need more water," but does it have to be like that?
Yeah. So just in summary, so in terms of community access, that's been a matter of much political discussion over the last year.
Yes.
And the solution that the Hamilton City Council signed off on as part of their scope approval last year was there's a path you'll see that wraps around on the west side that comes up in elevation to preserve some view.
Yeah.
But because of access to lifting lids and things, the roof itself is not accessible to public. In terms of the scale and size, what you see is half the reservoirs. This concept has the other half buried.
Okay.
Whilst the designation is to protect the two structures, the funding only provides for construction of the first.
Right.
The timing of the second would have to be reassessed over the next 15, 20, 25, 30 years based on demand. The existing reservoir is operationally challenged.
Yes. No problem. Asked and answered.
Sure.
So do I take it right that IAWAI, once it happens, can go, council already approved it?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So perhaps then finally, I just wonder if it looks like page 265, stage 1 of diligent, which is one reservoir, whether for the community could we provide some seating or something on the edge of it, and but anyway, I just make the point from when you've been there and elevation change, and just go, are we doing the right thing by the community? We're doing what we should, but are we actually doing the right thing for the community?
But just to add to Dave, and Andrew and I have had some conversations on how we become creative, and it isn't necessarily an EOI job. It might be Hamilton City Council taking responsibility forward, but you've got an existing facility there, the existing reservoir, but in due course won't be required. It's an iconic structure. Are there any opportunities, creative ideas to reuse that? Should we be talking to Hamilton City about some sort of design company? But it's all about.
Are we doing the right thing?
Yes.
For the community, community space. It's the right thing. It's approved.
There is these images don't convey the provision for community space. So there will be seating and things. So we've through the project we've enlisted services of Edwards by Architect. It's all been built in. In terms of formal engagement with the community, there's been a number of open days, but there's been a hearing in relation to reserve reclassification, and also there's been a designation process, so the hearings for that were earlier this week.
Yeah.
So there's been a number of formal processes as well as the informal process.
And obviously, in addition to the reservoir, there's going to be some big pipes in the central city that are required, and
Yeah. And up
it's
the
a
road,
similar sort of
it's
conversation
the
there,
community
isn't it?
impact, right?
Yeah,
So, like, at the end of it, if we spent $5,000 on some, or 10 or 20 on a gas barbecue at the bottom of it and some funds, and that was just paid for, like, you'd never see it in the project, but it's, are we doing the right thing for the community?
Tim,
I think Angie's already given an update on the hearing. Was it last week or this week?
There was this hearing set down for 5, this is the RMA hearing for the designation of the site. This hearing was set down for 5 days. There were 2 members of the public who spoke in opposition. The hearing was concluded on the first day. So the commissioners are in deliberation. We expect decisions within 20 working days of the conclusion of the hearing.
That's good.
okay, but I think it's in terms of community use, and Peter and I were talking just the other day, I think we just want to we're a water company, we've got to remember that, but we want to be very mindful, have these things in mind, and work with the city council, the district council really well, so that together we do the right thing, and find ways of reusing it, be creative, minimise disruption, all those sorts of things going forward. Yeah.
Thanks, Kim.
Shall we'll have to note this report and keep a close eye on it, because we don't want to miss those deadlines, and make sure that we're on track all the way through. Okay, and now health and safety. I'll say a few words and then pass over to Michelle. I'm just really keen that for the 1st of July, when we go live, this is a core part of what we do. As board members, we are the PCBU, I think it is, under the legislation. So we need a living breather. Therefore, I think we should have a board report at each board. I think it's important that sees the wood and the trees, that we keep looking at the overall patterns. But obviously, if there are some areas where we've fallen short, we should hear about it. We probably need, as board members, a schedule of visits, and we should probably formally get some training and a reminder of what our responsibilities are, and that will change over time as legislation gets refined, etc., etc. So keen to get a structured approach to this going forward.
Thank you. Yeah, kia ora koutou. Thank you for having me here, and I absolutely agree with you, Kevin. And the intention is, and I've actually done some work on that too, in terms of what, as a board, what you could do. But I know this health and safety area was important to the board, as it is to IAWAI and to keeping our people safe. So it's really critical. And I, thinking about also in terms of the shared services. We obviously got shared services in this space, but if something happened on day 1 or day 2, we need to be very clear about their responsibilities. And so, as you said, the PCBU sits with the IAWAI. And there's different levels. So in terms of your governance is around the officers for due diligence and assurance, and then the chief executive is the implementation of the systems and the controls. The other complication, if you think, well, not complication, but in terms of thinking it broadly around the other PCBUs, so actually added in that in there because of water care. Obviously, they will be a PCBU, and if you think about them, the capital projects and then what we just talked about now, those other PCBUs are equally as important in our framework. So the framework really is really just outlining the roles and responsibilities and the governance approach, as well as sort of defining whose responsibilities are who. And I think that's the really key piece of this. From here, the implementation of that, picking up on your point, Kevin, it will roll out as will within the shared services framework too. But it was quite a job just picking up all the different policies and all the different frameworks and everything, so in my head I'm very clear around PCBU, where that sits with IAWAI, and then underneath that is all these others that feed in, and we need to have an oversight of all of that.
So yeah, I guess that's the main thing. I'd take it as read, but I'm sure we're going to have some questions too, or some comments, or some things that you think we want to think about.
So, David, Tim.
It was all great for me. Thank you.
That's good.
Very well thought out. Very well thought out.
Just conscious there was some, it's like the cricket program is quite a large one, but program of work, so there's different levels of complexities when it comes to the health and safety space.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I just wanted that.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have a lot of construction being done. So I think when we do our schedule of visits, obviously we're going to visit some of our facilities as part of this. But a key part of it will be looking at the various construction projects that are underway. And obviously there you've got a lot of contractors and partners.
That's right.
And we still have some responsibilities for all of that. So let's get all that clear.
I see it as part of that implementation. You've got to set those clear expectations with those others, the PCBUs, really clearly, and then there's some assurance activities, and then there's also the engagement bits that you've talked about too. So yeah, the other PCBUs are it's very important how we engage with those. So
yeah, cool. So Peter, do you want to come in?
Just one further comment. It's not just about how we create the right contractual frameworks and checking safety systems. It extends right down to our staff having the confidence to call out unsafe practice and stop work if that is what is required in response. So as part of the internal culture process inside IAWAI, we need to be building that level of ownership and confidence in dealing with safety to ensure that everyone is safe and returns unharmed home at the end of the day.
Actually, just on that point, a bit of personal history. I worked for a company that was owned by a shareholder who were a British company who did railway maintenance and sort of things. They got involved in a big problem, which was Potter's Bar, where there was maintenance issues. I think 7 people died. It was a big inquiry. It destroyed the company. The reputational damage from that health and safety incident means the company doesn't exist today. So this stuff is really, really important, and I think it's absolutely, for me, personally, I mean, they were one of our shareholders, but you saw it all unfolding. And I think it's really important from the board to the chief exec down that this is part of our DNA. And I would certainly be, and I'm sure Dave and Tim and Peter, you would recognise this. I think it's something you personally probably need to chair internally. It's got the chief exec's back and it's got the board's back. It's part of our core job. Because it does, it's cool. We have got to have so much work. We are a risky business in terms of what we do. We make mistakes. The reputational damage can be huge.
And to take that one step further, we talked earlier about the single points of failure in the network. Yesterday, Andrew and I had the opportunity to, amongst other things, visit a pump station. And what becomes very clear from that is, not all pump stations are like pump stations. And they have, completely different levels of design, inbuilt security from public interference, and so on that are associated with them. So thinking through and working through the legacy and how we satisfactorily address that in order to keep both our operations secure, but our people safe, it's going to be an important thing.
Okay, so important topic. It'll be a regular feature for the board. It'll get us involved outside of board meetings as well. Look forward to it. key part of what we do. Yeah, so we can note and support the approach going forward, which then we've got an item that is there for information. We don't really need a discussion. I thought they
No,
were
I
very
don't.
good submissions.
I wasn't intending to discuss it at all, but just to refer you to Hamilton's positions on those particular government.
So that brings to an end this part of the public report. So do I have support for a resolution to exclude the public for the next part of the board's consideration?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's agreed. And Andrew, thank you for coming.